Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura and welcome to month 4 of the mystery follow along block of the month called Scrappy Sunshine. And we're able to use all scrap fabric for this, but you can use regular fabric if you do not like the scrappy look. And I'll put some links in the description so you can get those first videos and get caught up. The first video we did cut all of our fabric, and that way when it came to each month we could just sit down and get the sewing done. And we're not making 12 different blocks, we're making one big quilt. So each month we're going to be making components of those blocks, and that means it's only one shape we're working on. We're going to be able to get to the sewing machine and get that sewing done. So this month we're going to make what I would consider a little arrow block. So for the arrow block, we are going to need the 3.5 by 6 inch contrast fabrics, and there will be 52 of them. And we will need 52 of the ABLs. This is the arrow block that we will be making. What is important is that we have a 1/4 inch from that point coming down. Up at the top, that point comes right to that edge. And to do that, we are going to draw on our white squares. And I'm going to draw on the back of my background fabric. So I have 4.5 inch squares, and I need to find a center mark and come up a 1/4 inch. So I'm going to take a ruler and I'm going to draw a scant 1/4 inch. This is a 4.5 inch block, so I will need to go over 2 1/4 inches and put a mark. That little point is where that arrow is going to end. So we're going to have that point and the seam allowance. So we're going to draw a line from X right up to each of the corners. So I write that X mark, and I'm going to go right up to the corner. And I'm going to do both sides. When we have those lines drawn, we're going to be able to cut our contrast fabric. So I have 3.5 inches by 6 inches. When we cut this, we need to cut so that we have the fabric either wrong sides touching or right sides touching. We're going to just cut from corner to corner. Now when we open up that block, we will end up with 2 going in the same direction. And that's where cutting these either wrong sides together or right sides together will change that whole outcome. So now that one piece will open up and give us that arrow shape. So we had the 2 on the one side and the 2 on the second side. If we're to cut one at a time, we will not have the pieces we need. If we take them and cut them, you can see where we have the triangle going in the same direction. And that's why it's important that we match up our fabric. So I have to have equal amounts facing each other. So I have the wrong sides touching, or you can have the right sides touching. Just be consistent through your cutting. So this one corner is one block, and this is another block. Now that we have the triangles done, we're going to be able to sew those into that block. This is the back. Turn it around, and you can see where this is the shape that we want. So work on one side at a time, and that's the direction that we need. If we were to sew here, it would be flipped over. So just flip that over. And you can see where that's going to be stitched and flipped over to the corner. So flip this over. We can line up that triangle underneath. Leave about 1/2 inch on that big end. That's the line we're going to be stitching. We have a 1/4 inch seam allowance approximately hanging out. Now we can go to the machine and stitch. So I've stitched from corner to corner. When I turn this over to the front side, we're going to be able to flip that over and press. We have that perfect straight line that we need, and we have lots of fabric hanging over so we can trim off that extra. And I like to use this background fabric as my trimming tool, or if you have a 4.5-inch ruler, you can use that. Now when I flip it over, you can really see how that point is coming together. And we just need to trim off this little triangle of the background fabric, and it doesn't have to be exact. So we have that one side done. We can work on the next side. Place your triangle on top so you know you're going in the right angle, and then just flip it, just so you know that that's the direction it is going to be in. So turn that back over so we can see the wrong side. Line it up so we have approximately a 1/4 inch seam allowance and about a 1/2 inch at the end. Once again, it doesn't have to be exact. And stitch following your pencil line. Once that row's been stitched, when we turn it over, flip, press, trim off that extra. And when we turn it over, we have that beautiful arrow block. Flip back your last side and just trim off that point. Those stitching lines are giving us that perfect 1/4 inch, that perfect point, and comes right up into those corners. I would recommend to do one of these out of some scrap fabric first, but once you do one, it really will go by really quickly. We just have to remember that we need to cut our fabrics in pairs so that we can get that shape that we need. If you do not like drawing the lines and doing this square this way, we do have another option. In the description, I will put this page, and they are templates. So those longer pieces are going to be the yellow, and we have that white. So when we cut out our pieces, they are going to match together. From here, we are going to match, stitch a 1/4 inch, flip that over, and stitch that 1/4 inch. Once we've stitched and pressed, the templates will give us the same block. So we can either draw the lines or use the templates. Either methods will work fine. Now, since we are on making these little pointed blocks, we do need to make 8 more. We do have the 52 with that contrasting background, but we're going to need 8 with some scrappy fabrics. So we're going to need 8 more of the 4.5-inch blocks and those 8 prints that we cut out. We can either use that drawing method or the template method, and the corners are not going to match, and that is exactly what we want. To cut that print fabric out, we will still need to match the wrong sides together or the right sides together and cut that angle. We now have the 2 sides for the one block and 2 sides for a second block. And you might want to just pre-cut those and then just mix them all up. We're just going to need a total of 8 of these points in that scrappy fabric. So we are now done 52 of these arrow blocks with our contrasting fabric and 8 identical blocks, but they're just done in the scrappy fabrics for the corners. And that's all there is for this month's Scrappy Sunshine Block of the Month. I do hope you join me next month on May the 7th and see exactly what component we're going to be making next. And thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. You could follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and I do have a newsletter. It's all free. And be sure to make every day a Sewtacular day. Bye for now.